On today's show, I don't get it. I don't get why some people don't understand how Klay Thompson is going to fit in with the Mavs offense. It's going to work. I'll tell you why. Today is Locked On Mavs.
I'm Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavericks podcast.
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
We're cracked.
You are Locked On Mavs.
Great, Rusty.
Your daily Dallas Mavericks podcast.
No one's dying.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Amazing.
Your team every day.
Still can't even help.
And welcome. You are locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and NBA channel manager of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for being part of the show, making Locked On Mavs your first listen today. With the best way you can help us grow the show. Listen every day on any podcast platform. Take us with you. Leave a 5-star review. Like the video on YouTube. Comment anything below on YouTube and on Spotify. Apparently you can make comments on Spotify now. So comment below what's one thing you don't understand about the Mavericks right now, or about what Mavs fans say, an opinion, something like that. Let me know. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. That's pretty cool. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. $5. Pretty good. And joining me from 105.3 The Fan, what you got for me, Blake Elliott?
Yes, sir. We are in here. First inaugural Locked On Mavs episode. I'm happy to be here, man. Part of the Raccoon Squad. Meet all your fans. I've met some in the wild. I've seen them. If y'all don't know, Nick is a celebrity at these Mavs games. People are coming up. Y'all are the best. So I'm just happy to be here, man.
Speaking of the Raccoon Squad, if you ever watched on YouTube, you see this sticker I've got on my microphone right here. A fan made that and drew that. It's a raccoon that's sitting inside of a basketball hoop and looks like a little basket. And he's a little cute guy. It says "Let It Ride" underneath it. We got the second ever Raccoon Squad tattoo. It was this logo guy got. Mark. Shout out to Mark.
Wow. I can't lie to you. When I saw that, I said, man, Nick, you might have went from like C- celebrity. You get at least a B+.
Wow.
You're at least a B+. You're getting tattoos of your show. That's crazy.
And it wasn't the first one either, which is kind of wild to me. All right, today we're going to talk about things we don't get. We're going to play a game called I Don't Get This, and we'll talk about, it's kind of like the Peter Griffin, you know what really grinds my gears from Family Guy is what we're going to do. I got a bunch of different things. I don't know why the Pistons gave Quentin Grimes to the Mavericks. Talk about him. I don't know why Derrick Jones Jr. is painted as a make or break talent for the Mavericks last season. And I want to start here, Blake. I don't know why. I don't get why some people don't understand how Klay Thompson is going to fit into the Mavericks offense. This is something we saw early on when Klay Thompson got, traded or signed to the Mavericks, however you want to paint that. And I think that it's going to be such an easy offensive fit. You can talk about the defense and we can have concerns about all that, but offensively, there's not going to be any issue to me at all. Klay may get less shots. He may have less plays drawn up for him and all that. But Jason Kidd was on NBC in the Bay Area with Monty Poole this week doing his event with Jaylen Brown. And he said this about the whole thing. Being Klay Thompson, it's easy. We're not going to try to make it difficult. He truly gives us something we haven't had, someone who isn't afraid to take a shot. He's been in championship situations. We believe we're building a championship team. The Mavericks had so many opportunities and so many times this season, playoffs especially, really, really painted the Mavericks as this team where, oh my gosh, there's only two guys that are willing to take a shot. And Klay Thompson will come in and be that guy. And even just in that situation, I can see him fitting in such an easy way.
Yeah, I think you bring up a great point when it comes to Klay, because I think people, especially with the internet nowadays, you see what someone's worst experience is and you kind of paint that as them. With Klay, this is a guy that has shot above 40% from three pretty much his entire career. Now, he did have some lows last year, but it's not like the Warriors were a great team last year. We kind of gave Quentin Grimes the same kind of break, saying he played on a bad Pistons team, albeit for only a couple games, and we give him a break. But when it comes to Klay Thompson and the Warriors, we're like, we have a higher expectation, which is expected, but that system is not the same system that he's going into with the Dallas Mavericks. So I don't think you're going to see a replication of what you saw last year in Golden State. And I love Steph Curry. No one has any qualms about him, but Steph and Luka are not the same players. Their on-ball gravity is not the same. So Klay is going to be getting different looks than we've seen him get his entire career. Now, he shot, I think I was looking at earlier, second lowest in his career's full field goal attempts at 14.7. So I'll ask you, do you think that kind of stays around there? Do you think that goes lower, higher, or does it even matter?
Yeah, this is one of the things I was gonna talk about when we talk about my next thing. But yeah, he was second on the Warriors in shots per game. They added Chris Paul. Kuminga took a bigger step forward. They had Wiggins, who was in that spot, and Klay took less shots than he normally has, even less than he took when he was with Kevin Durant and Steph Curry, which I thought was interesting. So I think it kind of stays the same because I don't think you want Klay Thompson dominating your offense. You've already got two guys that can dominate the ball, that can do a lot of things, that we want them to do a lot of things. You take the ball out of their hands, it has to be an efficient opportunity for somebody else. It has to be PJ Washington against the fourth, like best defender on the other team or something like that. Klay Thompson with an open shot, an open lane to the basket or something like that. But I think that stays about the same. The one thing that stood out to me was his corner shooting. Yeah. It's kind of interesting to look at Klay Thompson, the splits between the two corners. Right corner, last 2 years, 50%. Left corner, last 2 years, like 30%, 36%. He's worse in the left corner. I think we're going to see him spotting up in the right corner a whole lot. He actually took the same amount of corner threes on each side, 46 in each corner last season, which I found really interesting.
We got to keep him in the right corner. All right. Maybe PJ can be left corner. We can just split it down the middle. Just run the lanes, guys. Klay right, PJ left. Lively top of the key.
But even just that one, the one right corner, right? 50% on threes. Okay, just do that. Yeah. Even if he just
the Mavs haven't had that. They have not had that.
No. Think about who was taking the corner threes last year. The Derrick Jones Jr.'s, the PJ Washingtons, the even Grant Williams at times. He's going to fit in this offense. And I don't get why people didn't understand how that was going to work.
I mean, how many times do we in the Mavs media room or watching the game live see Derrick Jones Jr. pull up for three, and we're banking so much on a guy that hadn't been a three-point shooter who had shown to get better this year. But as a team that has finals aspirations, you're not banking on Derrick Jones Jr. to hit 4 or 5 threes, which is we got to a point in the year where he was doing that in spurts, and you're hoping for that. A guy like Klay, if he knocks down 5 threes, you're not batting an eye. It's just another night for him. So I think having that floor spacer with Kyrie, with Luka, will obviously pay dividends. I think everyone's aware of that. But also Klay can create himself as well. He's not going to call a pick and roll and run the offense, but it's not like coming off a curl or a screen. He can't make something happen as well. He's not just a catch and shoot guy.
And speaking of Klay last season, my second one, something I don't get. I don't get why it's painted like Klay played like garbage last season. I just don't get it because if I see that stat one more time that he was 0 for 10 in that play-in game or in that playoff game or whatever it was, like that does not show the entire season of what Klay did. Last season, he played 77 games, which by the way is impressive in and of itself because of the injuries that he dealt with, that he came back from, returned from, all that. 77 games, averaged 18 points a game, couple of assists, shot 39% from three. 38.7.
And a down year, 39%.
That's his down year, 9 threes a game. He shot 93% from the free throw line, led the league in free throw percentage. He can still shoot. He's going to be able to shoot no matter what. Maybe his mobility is a little bit limited. Maybe he wasn't able to get his own shot, but he was second on the Warriors in field goal attempts, and he was boxed into this corner of, all right, you've got to make something happen for us because Wiggins is not really doing a lot. Kuminga is kind of on and off here or there. We need you to be that guy. And they just didn't have the same kind of connection. They didn't have the same kind of playmaking. When he started to play with Chris Paul, the second half of the season, he really ramped it up. First half of the season before he got benched, he played about 49 games, averaged 17 points, shot 37% from three. After he got benched, the last 28 games of the season, 19 and a half points a game, 42%. That's him playing with Chris Paul, playing with a playmaker that can get in the ball. Yep. And so I don't think he played like garbage last season. It's kind of interesting to hear people keep mentioning that.
Yeah, that kind of goes back to my first point of people using people's lows as their overall experience. I think you take the highs, you take the lows, you throw it out the window to give me the averages when it comes to evaluating a player and whatnot. And Klay Thompson's one that people have a million evaluations on. He's played in a numerous amount of big games and whatnot. But I think the product of where you are playing, your environment plays such a factor in the NBA that most fans just don't bring up. They're like, if you're a good player, put up great numbers and just put all the stuff to the side. But when you have a culture from a team that just went to the NBA Finals, from what we saw, chemistry is a big part of this team of how much these guys get along off the court. I mean, there's already reports of them doing workouts as of today in LA. So when you have that around, we saw how Klay was in the presser. We were both there. He seemed giddy. He took less money to come here. Like, he understands what's in front of him. This is not a prove that you can still be an all-star and drop 30 a game. This is, can you be that filling guy for a championship? And I think last year the Warriors probably knew they didn't have championship aspirations, or maybe Klay realized it, and your play drops. You're not doing all the extra things. Yeah.
This will be a new situation, but like Jason Kidd said, we're going to make it easy on him. We're not trying to make it difficult. He truly gives us something we haven't had. We're going to make him just be Klay Thompson. Just be that guy that we know you can be. And I think it'll be interesting to see him next to that uber usage playmaker in Luka, and against Kyrie too, because apparently Kyrie was big in recruiting him as well. So I think that's going to really work out for the Mavs. Coming up, I got a couple more things. Blake's got some more things we just don't get. One of mine, I don't get why the Pistons just gave Quentin Grimes to the Dallas Mavericks. I don't get it. We'll talk about that coming up.
You don't believe you shouldn't be here.
Today's episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle. Level it up to peak performance, like Klay Thompson shooting 43% to end the year. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you always find exactly what you're looking for. And with that eBay guaranteed fit, you know that you're going to fit the part is going to fit your ride every time, or you get your money back the same way. Klay Thompson's going to fit exactly with the Dallas Mavericks. It's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. eBay guaranteed fit only available to U.S. customers.
My first shot, my first make.
Thanks everybody for hanging out with us on Locked On Mavs, being part of the show, part of the Raccoon Squad, listening every day. Appreciate each and every one of you for checking out the show. Your second listen today should be Locked On NBA. On Thursdays, I'm on there with Pat the Designer. We've got every day there's something good. 30 minutes or less will give you everything you need to know about the NBA the day before. Big NBA topics, fun third segments that we'll do on there. Go check out Locked On NBA on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast, wherever you're listening or watching this show right now. Go listen to Locked On NBA. All right, Blake Elliott from 105.3 The Fan is here with me. We're talking about things that we just don't get. Blake, what's something about the Dallas Mavericks, an opinion that you've heard from somebody, something going on with the Mavs that you don't get right now?
Yeah, this is one that I've heard a good amount when it comes to Mavs fandom, talking on social media or just friends of mine. What are the Mavericks going to do about their defense? They lost Derrick Jones Jr., the best POA defender, which, funny enough, I think was the biggest buzzword in the NBA last year. POA defender, everyone was using it.
This offseason for the Mavs, it's been like that. We've had fights in the comment section on Locked On Mavs about why do we keep talking about point of attack all the time.
Oh, well, Derrick Jones Jr. was one of the better ones on the Mavs at that, and obviously you lost him. So how are they going to replace that? And myself included, I would be lying to you, Nick, if I wasn't like, I don't know if Klay Thompson can do it at his age, but I will say I don't think it's as big of a problem as people are making it. And I know you got some numbers on how long people played minutes in those spots, but I think you have other guys that can fill that role. It is not as if this point of attack defender needs to be on the floor 48 minutes, taking every shot, defending the best player 24/7, because that's not how basketball works. There's switching, there's schemes. I think Luka's going to step up. He's going to have to. I think Kyrie is going to step up. I think PJ Washington has shown the versatility. And then Najee Marshall and Quentin Grimes, I think, are going to play more minutes than people assume.
The point of attack problem with Derrick Jones Jr., and this kind of goes to one I'm going to talk about in a minute, but I'm glad you brought this up because I haven't done this in a couple weeks, and I'm getting on my soapbox again. The point of attack issue that we've been talking about as Mavs fans and people covering the Mavs and all that is a playoff problem. We got so used to all the playoff problems and all the playoff issues because the Mavs were in the playoffs for 2 months. 2 months. Eternity. I did 84 shows over that stretch of time. You did a bunch of shows on 105.3. There was all kinds of Mavs content, Mavs shows. Yep. All we did was think about and look at and talk about the Mavs playoff problems. All the preview leading up to the Clippers series. You had a week before that. You had a week before the finals. You had the entirety of the Thunder series, the Timberwolves series. You had the actual finals themselves. And the point of attack problem is a playoff problem. It will not come up as badly until the playoffs come again, because one of my things was going to be, I don't get why Derrick Jones Jr. is painted as this make or break talent for the Mavericks last season. During the season, he averaged 23 and a half minutes for the whole season.
He didn't play 48 a game?
Post trade, where you think, all right, the Mavs became who they were. They ramped up. Their defense became better. They were the best defense in the NBA the last couple months of the season. Post trade, he averaged 20 minutes. He averaged less minutes post trade than he did before the trade. So, and then in the playoffs, it ramped up to 29. And so that's the disconnect that we're seeing. It's like, okay, how are the Mavs going to replace this 29 minutes of defense? They don't have to do that until the playoffs when it really comes down to it. If the Mavs scheme holds up, Klay Thompson can play his role in the scheme. Luka can play his role in the scheme. Kyrie can play his role in the scheme. Lively plays this role. PJ Washington plays this role. They'll be fine defensively. They may not be elite like they were at the end of last season. They'll be fine. And their offense will be better because of all the things we talked about with Klay earlier.
Yeah, say if they take, I don't know, 15 ticks off of their defense, I think they're growing in their offense. It surpasses that. They might 30, 40 ticks to shoot some.
15 out of what?
Say they're out of 50. They go down.
15 out of 50? Okay.
They're out of 50.
Losing me at this scale.
To a 35 scale on the defense.
Okay. All right.
But the offense is like 40. My point being, the offense will make up for the lack of defense. And I think having a guy like Klay out there, and also another point, people act like he was a cone. I'm not saying he is
Klay
Drew
was?
Holiday. Yeah, like Klay Thompson was a cone. I'm not saying he's Drew Holiday in 2024, but it's not as if he is some below average defender. Like, he is not what he used to be based on all the surgeries and reconstruction he's had to do. But I think he's going to be rejuvenized and understand the situation that he's in and step up to that billing. I'm sure it was brought up in the meetings that you're going to have to play a little bit of defense.
Yeah, it was interesting hearing him in his introductory press conference where he's like, yeah, I used to have to defend the best player on the other team, and now I won't have to do that as much because I got these guys. And he pointed over at Grimes and Najee Marshall, and I was like, man, I don't know if you're gonna start. I think you may have to defend. I think you may have to defend the best guard because PJ is gonna have to defend the best wings, and they'll pass it around. But part of the Mavs scheme in their system is it's about effort, it's about communication, and you don't end up guarding the guy that you're set to guard most of the time anyway, because there's all kinds of movement, all kinds of switches. Luka ends up guarding, Kyrie ends up guarding, Lively ends up switching on somebody, or the center ends up, like, they do all kinds of stuff like that. And I think that it's being a little overblown because it's a playoff problem and not a regular season problem. And we're used to having playoff problems, which are kind of nice, right? Like, it's nice to talk about the playoff problems. It
is nice. And this is the fun part of the offseason, is we speculate for what's going to happen during the season and in the postseason. But who's to say we don't have another guy? Derrick Jones Jr., we weren't talking about the offseason before being your best point of attack defender, being in the starting rotation. Quentin Grimes might end up being some great starter for you, or just a guy who's getting heavy minutes, or maybe Dante Exum or Jaden Hardy. Like, we don't know who's going to be that guy to step up and be that primary defender or just primary contributor. So it's all fun in the offseason now.
Yeah, before the season, I like to sit down and I do this real nerdy thing. I've done it since I was a kid. I make a spreadsheet. I list the amount of minutes that each position can get, and then I start to distribute them. Like, how can I make a 10-man rotation out of this? Yeah. Before last season, I, as someone that covers this team every single day, did not have Derrick Jones Jr. getting minutes for the Mavericks last season. I didn't consider him to get minutes. Now, some of that was Omax was coming in and people were hyped about Omax. Josh Green is supposed to take this step forward as as this point of attack defender and guy like that. They had Grant Williams who's going to fit. Like, they had guys that were going to come in and fill those spots. But that just puts where Derrick Jones Jr. was. And hey, what if we're talking about Quentin Grimes and Najee Marshall the same way a year from now? I want to talk about one of those. Let's talk about Quentin Grimes. Let's talk about what he brings to the Dallas Mavericks and why I don't get that the Pistons just gave him away. We'll talk about that and more coming up.
You don't believe you shouldn't be here.
Oh, today's episode, it is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel Sportsbook has all kinds of props and odds and things that you can use to get in on the action, talk about sports. You've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel. It's America's #1 sportsbook. You've heard me almost every week, maybe every day. Well, something a little different for you now. Now through September 22nd, so about a month, all FanDuel customers can bet $5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Get 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Use this strategically. Pick the weeks that you actually want. Maybe it's the first 3. Free Sunday Ticket for 3 weeks if you make a $5 bet. Then with the YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account, current form of payment. You can cancel anytime. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to download America's #1 sportsbook. Go check it out. See what else they have there. They have all kinds of NBA props for the season coming up. They have all kinds of WNBA stuff with the Dallas Wings getting set right now after the Olympic break. All kinds of things at FanDuel.com/lockedon.
Shut it down! Let's go home!
All right, Blake, before we move on,
Sure.
I got to give a shout out
We do got to give a shout out. Oh my.
To your mom, because I was in LA for Clippers Mavs.
Yeah.
I think it was a game 1 or game 2, and I was walking around. I saw a group of Mavs fans, and I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna go over and talk to these Mavs fans and see what they're all about." And this woman comes over with like this sequence dress with this sequence purse and Mavs gear everywhere, and this like huge Mavs hat and all this stuff, and she's like, "Oh, I know you. Do you know my son? Do you know my son?" And it was your mom. It was Blake Elliott's mom. So shout out to your mom, the listener of the show, part of the Raccoon Squad, and yeah, we appreciate her.
She is part of the Raccoon Squad. She called me or she texted me during the game. She goes, "I ran into your friend Nick." Sends a selfie, I think, of y'all. And then after the game, she's telling me, she goes, "Oh, that we always watch his podcast. He's great." So if my mom's part of the Raccoon Squad, you're obviously part of the Raccoon Squad. If you're listening, send it to your mom. Send it to your parents.
Wow.
Maybe they'll also be Raccoon Squad members.
You know who else is part of it? My mom. My mom walks around every morning and listens to my show. So shout out to the moms out there being supportive.
Shout out to the moms.
Does your mom send you notes after your shows?
Yes. Tells me how to do my show, what I did wrong, different ideas for segments, the whole nine.
What does your mom think about, should we do a Cowboy stuff? What does your mom think about the CD Lamb thing?
She's heated. She's heated. She doesn't understand why he's not getting paid, and I try to tell her that it's Jerry's fault, and it's a whole convoluted thing. I'm starting to think I don't even know what I'm talking about when it comes to CD.
He's the Dallas Cowboys wide receiver who wants to get paid, and the Cowboys aren't paying him, and the Cowboys haven't paid guys, it seems like, the last couple of years. So,
nope.
So it's a weird thing. All right, get back to the Dallas Mavericks. We talked about a couple other guys, but one of the guys I think that could replace Derrick Jones Jr., and we could be talking about him the same way we're talking about Derrick Jones Jr. now, is Quentin Grimes. So one of the things I don't get is why the Pistons gave Quentin Grimes to the Mavericks. I still don't understand this. He's 24 years old. He was a starter for the Knicks a couple years ago, last year, and then he gets traded in the Bogdanovich trade. He played great defense for them. He shot the ball well from three. You'd think that the Pistons would want a guy like this to develop and to use and to bring up into their system. Maybe his injury is that bad. Maybe his knee is bad, but this is something I don't get, is why the Mavericks have Quentin Grimes, but I'm very grateful that they do.
For me, and I'm looking at the roster as we speak, I think it was just a little bit of influx of guards over there. They got Cade Cunningham, obviously, Jaden Ivey, Malik. They went and got Malik Beasley. I think it was just they had too many project players, and I don't think Quentin Grimes, obviously he's not like a rookie or a second year guy. He's been in the league a couple of years now, but I think guys that they're waiting for develop a Josh Green kind of build. Like you've seen a little bit, but he hasn't obviously reached that all-star level. Yeah, he's a solid role player for you. And I think for the Pistons, maybe it was just timelines didn't work out. I think he landed in the perfect spot in Dallas for guys that are trying to like have maybe had a little small hit in their career, and then they've kind of gone down and subsided, and maybe they're on some teams that nobody talks about, aka half of the Mavs roster for the last couple of years. And then you get in the right system, you get around players like Luka and Kyrie, and you just take off and go to a different level. And if you can hear me excited, it's because I am, because Quentin Grimes is a guy that I really think is going to fit really well and play a bunch of different roles for this Mavs team.
I think he is. I think that the same thing they're going to do with Klay Thompson, things Jason Kidd said about Klay Thompson, just going to make him be himself, not make it difficult, make it easy, put him in the right role. Same thing they did with Derek Lively. He'll fit right in. He'll do exactly what he needs to do. Saw some workout videos of him, and I saw a bunch of people comment, "Oh my gosh, his handle is a lot better than I thought it was going to be." Like, I think he's going to bring out some stuff that people weren't expecting. He wanted to come back to Texas. I think that's maybe one of the reasons why the Pistons, gave him up and were willing to move on from him, is because he really wanted to get out and wanted to do something else. They do have the Pistons do have three like developmental: Cunningham, Jaden Ivey, Asar Thompson. They've got three guards there that you're trying to figure out how to work. But I still don't get why you just wouldn't keep a 3-and-D 24-year-old like that. Give the Mavericks the opportunity to get Klay Thompson, because without the Tim Hardaway trade, they don't get Klay Thompson. And so now all of a sudden, they did a solid for the Mavericks. Mavericks gave him 3 second-round picks and Tim Hardaway.
Is Tim Hardaway going to play on that team?
Tim Hardaway, by the way, the oldest player on the Pistons right now.
Yeah, does he get any minutes, do you think?
I think so.
Okay.
Him and Tobias Harris and Malik Beasley. I think you got to play them all 3 together.
Just racking up money, just taking shots at Detroit.
Just a Spider-Man meme all around. They're just all pointing at each other. Like,
you know what? That might be must-see TV just to see how that goes. Do you think Mr. Hardaway has any tweets or any shows he goes on after Detroit Pistons games?
Senior or junior?
Senior.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Absolutely. I'm sure there are. And senior, if you want to come on a show, Locked On Pistons, we're willing to have you on. We can make that happen. All right. Give me another thing you don't get.
Another thing that I don't get, and now this one's a little bit outlandish, but I thought it'd be fun. People thinking that the Mavs won't make it back to the NBA Finals. That this Western Conference gauntlet has upgraded so much, and that the Mavs didn't do enough in the offseason to overcome their shortcomings in their roster. And Oklahoma City got better, and Minnesota got better, and Denver is Denver with Jokic. I feel like some of the slack that we give teams, a lot of people are not giving the Mavericks around the league. When I look at social media, YouTube, Twitter, talk to people, whatever it may be, it feels like a lot of people have penciled in Oklahoma City and Minnesota making it far. And the Mavs had a good run last year, but I don't see it happening again because Luka can't defend. I hear that over and over, but somehow Luka not defending got them to the NBA Finals. Kyrie getting older, and he's inconsistent and can't score in Boston, but somehow they still got all the way there. Like all these things that they used against them, I don't understand how they couldn't be replicated. Luka having an MVP-like level, Derek Lively getting even better in year 2. It feels like he's already like in year 3, and we're like, okay, if he can make this jump, I feel like there's no way he really doesn't at least get 5 to 10% better next year. PJ Washington in a good environment. So just hearing that all these other teams are upgrading, but the Mavs somehow aren't, it's kind of confused me this offseason.
The Thunder are the team that I can hear. I can hear the case. I can hear, all right, that one, they got better. They'll internally get better with Chet getting better, Jalen Williams getting better, Shea may even get better. I mean, all those guys will get better. Then they add Caruso, Hartenstein. Like, I mean, they definitely got better. I mean, they should still be the number 1 team in the West next season in the regular season. But the Mavs beat them. The Mavs are, I don't think anything that they added changes that much. Maybe Hartenstein is a better, rebounder, a better rim protector. Maybe that changes some things. But what's the thing that OKC fans keep complaining about over and over again about that series? Well, if PJ Washington hadn't turned into Ray Allen for 2 weeks, then okay, well, what if you add Klay Thompson, who's basically Ray Allen in his last couple years in Boston? Like, that's literally the last seasons that he's had. Okay, they add him. So now what do you do? You can't defend Kyrie the same way that you did last year when you sold out a couple defenders to go defend Kyrie. You can't do the same thing. So how are you going to defend them now? Okay, we'll just put Caruso on him. All right, well, that'll work for a little while, and then we'll see what happens. And now all of a sudden the Mavs have Klay Thompson running around getting 3s. So the Mavs, I think, have countered some of OKC's adjustments. But Denver got worse, losing KCP. I think that one's going to hurt them. Their starting 5 will probably still be good, but their depth is really struggling. I don't think the Timberwolves got better. I don't think you can make, unless Rob Dillingham comes in and is really good. Like, Conley's getting older, Gobert's getting older. Gobert didn't even play for his Olympic team down.
They put him on the bench.
So I don't think that is. The Clippers definitely got worse, losing Paul George. The Suns got better, like Tyus Jones and Mason Plumlee and getting those moves. But yeah, I'm with you that I think they can repeat. It's possible. I don't expect them to, though, because man, it is tough to get to the NBA Finals. And I don't know that can be an expectation, but they can absolutely do it. Like, I would not be shocked or surprised at all.
Yeah, I've just seen a lot of disrespect and just of people not even having them getting back to the Western Conference Finals. And I'm just a little confused by it, as if they lost some major piece in their top 2 or 3 scores. And my only caveat, and then we can move on to the next topic, is with Oklahoma City, what was their biggest thing outside of not just the series, but in the entire season? Was a lack of size, which I think Hartenstein helped.
Definitely.
But Caruso, if he's going to be in there, you still have that lack of size kind of at the garbage. Is he going to start with Lou Dort and SGA? You now have 3 guards out there, 3 smaller body dudes. I know Lou Dort's stout, but not the tallest dude in the world. Like, you still have some of those same problems that I don't think helped. I think you now have another puzzle piece, but I don't think the puzzle is completely done.
Yeah. They'll be good, and they'll be interesting. It would be amazing if that was the Western Conference Finals next year. You got the rematch there, and you got to see that work out. But yeah, that's interesting. Blake, where can everybody find you this week? How can people follow and listen to you and all that?
Yeah, for sure. First of all, thank you for letting me come on the show. At Blake Live _ on X and Instagram. My co-host on The Fan already make fun of me for that, for having the underscores. But you can come listen to me on the Get Right tomorrow from 7 to 11 on 105.3 The Fan, KRLD. That's a tongue twister. FM radio on 105.3 The Fan. So love.
Another one like myself that is mourning the loss of our friend Reggie Atatula.
I know.
It's a tough one. Pouring out for Reggie. Pouring out for Reggie.
That was a pretty good pouring sound right there.
Tough one. He got started in Houston too. They were posting about him, and I was like Wolverine sitting there with the photo. The photo frame.
I felt like Jaden Hardy before this podcast. I felt like I was doing the right things. I was just waiting for Coach Kidd to call me up for an episode. Show my talent.
And instead, they sent Kyrie to Houston. They sent your guy. They sent him away.
They sent him to Houston. Oh, man. Yeah, go check out Blake and go listen to all his stuff. And, guys, we'll be back tomorrow with more Locked On Mavs. Thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs. Tomorrow we'll be back with more and all throughout the week. Still sticking to 5 days a week. Guys, thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs.
Peace out.
Boom.